Well, when Mark Carney refers to projects of national interest, he's referring to major infrastructure and energy projects, in particular those that will secure Canada's future economic success and security. The Prime Minister has made reference to conventional energy as being a part of that. And yesterday, I did sit down with the president of the Alberta Business Council, who says the Prime Minister should be moving on pipelines. So listen, I hear what you have said. I was looking at actually an article that you wrote for The Hub, and you talk about how this Liberal government needs to prove that it's different than the Liberal government before it. Not only that, you say that this government needs to prove that difference quickly. Why?
Well, because the opportunity is in front of us and it's not going to be there forever. And you're seeing some of the frustrations of Albertans growing in terms of some of these separatist sentiments. So there's got to be a moment in time where we capture the imagination not only of the Prime Minister's ambition to be the strongest economy of the G7, to be an energy superpower, and to build things. We need to get that to happen soon. Otherwise, I worry about the state of the nation. I worry about unity. I worry about how, if we get a good deal with the United States, that some of the imperative, some of the urgency to do all of this stuff will start to fade away. And we can't lose the urgency. We have to capture it. It's a moment in time where I think Canadians are recognizing all of the things that we should have been doing over the past 10 or 20 years for the good of the country we haven't been doing. And it took the U.S. and the situation with the tariffs and President Trump to really highlight those. And a new government, I think, has a moment where they can do big and great things, but it doesn't last forever. It
doesn't last forever, as you say. And in fact, you have written to the Prime Minister outlining actions that he could take to get moving quickly, if you will. But that also includes, you write, a rethink of environmental policy. What needs to be revisited when you talk about environmental policy?
Unfortunately, the previous government thought that domestic emissions trumped all else. It trumped the economy, it trumped our commitment to our allies, it trumped our commitment to global greenhouse emissions reduction. So I think we need to take a much more global view. We need to take a view that the path to achieving the strongest economy of the G7 really flows through Canada's natural resource sector. But we can't develop the natural resource sector against the backdrop of the existing climate policy that we have, particularly as it relates to things like the proposed emissions cap, the greenwashing provisions, the clean electricity regulations. All of those things are making Canada highly uninvestable as a place to do natural resource projects, to do interprovincial power ties, etc. So we need to make Canada more competitive, largely with our biggest ally and customer of the South, the United States, because capital will go where it's less friction, greatest return. And in Canada's environmental policy, we've just created so many layers of problems that no capital is coming here. We've seen that because very few projects are actually happening.
So where does environmental regulation fit in then, or at the very least environmental commitments? Because I don't have to tell you, it is those who are concerned about environmental outcomes that oftentimes oppose new projects and development of oil and gas.
Yeah, I'd say two things, Michael. The first and foremost is we should take, as Canadians, a global view of greenhouse gas emissions. And so there are many countries that have come to Canada asking for our LNG to offset higher emitting sources in their home countries, whether that's Japan, whether that is South Korea, whether that is Greece or Germany, and also add on to getting off of Russian gas. But we sent them home empty-handed. So what we need to do is think about if Canada can help offset higher emitting sources elsewhere,
like coal,
we may have to grow our domestic emissions, but on the big picture global basis, that means we'll reduce global emissions. So that's the first point. The second point is the way in which we can incent. None of my members in the private sector in Alberta want to do any environmental damage, but we've created an impact assessment process that really has made it so challenging and so cumbersome. So let's layer on a thoughtful, pragmatic, timely, efficient, and certain environmental review process with incentive on technology to reduce emissions on things like carbon capture and sequestration, and to strip away all of the other policy barriers and make it competitive, efficient for companies to invest in those technologies. The Prime Minister has said, Minister Hodgson has said, let's get this Pathways project done. Couldn't agree more. And the combination of those two things, I think...
And Pathways is carbon capture for people who don't know that.
Yes, the carbon capture for the oil sands projects. Between those two things, I think Canadians can recognize Canada's got a competitive sector. Canada's working to reduce its emissions on an intensity basis in Canada, but we're also helping the world by providing cleaner sources of fuel elsewhere. The emissions globally will go down.